Good afternoon, everyone. I honestly do not need this microphone, but we want to make sure that everybody hears. I'm Carol Luper. I'm a member of the Columbus Metropolitan Club Board of Trustees. I'm a retired television reporter, and it's great to see all of you here today. Today's chapter, Forum, is the first chapter in our 40th anniversary celebration series, The Best of Columbus. Today's chapter, Companies That Will Define Us. Rev1 Ventures Revs Up. It's brought to us with support from CMC honorary founders, Dispatch Media Group, and WBNS 10 TV. Each is represented by their associates here today. In the past several years, Columbus has become the fastest growing region in the U.S. for startup activity, and Rev1 Ventures, formerly Tech Columbus, has become the top venture capital investor in the U.S. Great Lakes region. This extraordinary progress doesn't happen without many creative minds, good government policy, and strong leadership. Many are contributing to this revolution, and we're pleased to welcome Tom Walker and a few of Rev1's clients who are turning innovation-based discoveries into commercial opportunities. Please welcome founder and CEO of Clarivoy, Steve White, founder and CEO of Ardina, Shaun, founder and CEO of TacBoard, Disha, Shidam, and the president and CEO of Rev1 Ventures, who has skin in the game as an active angel investor, also our host and moderator today, Tom Walker. Tom will have opening remarks, and then he'll have the panel engaged. Welcome. It's all yours.
Thank you, Carol. Well, it's great to see so many friends and partners and interested people in startup and small businesses here today. So thank you all for coming out on a true cold winter day. Winter actually hit, I think, officially today. We have a fun panel. Andy's very nervous because I have notes here, and he's afraid that I'm going to read a speech, and I promise I won't do that. We're going to keep this light. It's a lot of fun things to share. For example, how many of you knew that you, as part of Columbus, are sitting in the most active startup region in the U.S.? Bet not many of you knew that. That's a great stat that happened just last year, and it's all of you that are helping make that happen. It's an exciting time to be here, and we have some terrific companies that you're going to get to learn from. There will be the traditional Q&A, so we want you to be thinking of some questions so you can learn more about these startups and more about what we call is the backyard effect here in Columbus, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a moment. It is an exciting time to be part of the startup community. We all read about the billion-dollar startups, record valuations in the startup community, and many fear that we're heading to another tech bubble in the U.S., and it's something that we're all, keep on mind here. But today we're going to talk about what it's real life like to be in a startup in Columbus. Columbus startups have the same goal as any startup in the country, and that is to build successful companies that can generate wealth for the founders, their employees, and the region. I think the difference here is that in Columbus, we really focus on companies that can get to revenue early. So they're building products that customers actually want to pay a price for, and then they're building businesses with that product-market combination. And you're going to see that in the panel today, and you're seeing that in a lot of the success factors in the startups that are in our region. A lot of firsts, so we've talked about the Kaufman Index ranking Columbus as the most active startup region. The PitchBook stat that ranked Rev1 Ventures as the most active seed fund in the Great Lakes region is interesting because last year we invested in 29 new startups. In 2014, we invested in 18 new startups. Those 2 years combined are more companies than the previous 5 years combined. So there's a real path and strong momentum going on in Columbus. It's pretty exciting. And it's raising the profile of the region. So why is that important? So we're in a region that is growing. We're growing in population. So the more that we can show that there are opportunities here, it's more we're going to attract talent and we're going to attract capital to the region. And that's the formula for success as we think about Columbus and the region over the next decade. A couple other announcements that are pretty exciting. Last year, Columbus hosted the first ever Columbus Startup Week, which is sponsored by Chase. That's coming again this year, so in early May, so we encourage you to mark your calendars for that. It's a really exciting time to see not just high growth, high tech startups, but the entire breadth of our market in restaurant entrepreneurs and other types of startups. And then in early November, the State Science and Technology Institute annual conference will be in Columbus. Now that is I like to think of it as the trade association of tech-based economic development programs around the country. And so that conference will be held here early November. Mark your calendars. It's a great session to learn about best practices not in our region, not only in our region, but in other parts of the country. And we have SSTI bought a table today, fellas, so thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Okay, the backyard effect. So this is what we think is the competitive advantage for Columbus and Columbus startups. It's the really high connectivity of the community, the business leaders, and the government leaders all working together on one common goal, and that is to make Columbus an attractive region for startups to start companies and for investors to invest in. And we call that the backyard effect, and we believe we're building a network of resources here in Columbus that rival any part of the country. And I want to share some of those assets for you, with you here before we hand it over to the panel. First is the Ohio Third Frontier. Not many people are aware of this, but the Third Frontier is a statewide organization. I like to think of it as a program that helps close the critical gaps back in our regions in terms of services for startups and access to capital. Most states in the U.S. are envious of Ohio because of the Third Frontier, and so that's a huge asset for us to do the things that we're doing, not just in Columbus, but statewide. And then it's the commercialization and research institutions that are in our backyard here. We have the Ohio State University, Nationwide Children's Research Institute, and Ohio Health, all of which who have been investing in their commercialization infrastructure the last few years, and we're beginning to see some really interesting results. And so a couple of examples there with OSU. Typically, we read in the papers how OSU lags in commercialization behind their peers in the country. But over the last 3 years, OSU has the highest growth rate of spin-outs of any other university in the Big Ten. There's real momentum there, some really interesting opportunities coming out of that institution. Ohio Health created an innovation fund that is there for docs within the Ohio Health Network to realize their entrepreneurial endeavors, to advance some of the innovations that they're creating within the Ohio Health Network. And we've partnered with Nationwide Children's Research Institute this year to create the first ever life science fund for the region to accelerate innovations coming out of that institution. So it's a really exciting time on the research and commercialization base. And in fact, nearly 20% of all the new business opportunities that we pursue at Rev1 each year come through those research institutions, and we expect that to just grow over time. We have an incredible corporate base, and most of you are part of that corporate base. We have now connected nearly 100 Columbus corporations for two key purposes. One, to be advisors for the startups, and they've now logged north of 1,300 hours in supporting these startups and advise. The second key is to be customers. The more we can find our customers for startups right here in our backyard, the stronger these companies are going to be and the faster they're going to launch and be competitive. So this year we will help our portfolio company find 80 qualified leads, customer leads from the corporate base right here in Columbus who have signed up to be part of that program. And then finally, it's a service provider network. The lawyers, accountants, marketing firms, engineering firms, all of which who have services that they can help these companies. They've now provided up to $2 million of discounted services to these portfolio companies. So when you combine all these networks together, I hold this network up to any network in the country. It's really impressive how this community is coming together to help these startup companies. So the final thing I like to talk about is capital, and then we'll move over to the panel here. When we think about investment capital, it's really critical for startup companies because they're at a stage that they're not bankable. They're in what we call the valley of death. They're spending more money than they have coming in. So you have to find that risk capital to help them pursue their dreams and grow these companies. And it's a good news and sort of concerning news for the region. On the good news side, I've already mentioned Third Frontier. Third Frontier comes to the table and works with corporate and angel investors to help us raise funds to invest in these companies. This year, we're launching nearly $40 million of new capital, and those are made possible through the Third Frontier, the corporate base here in Columbus, and angel investors that are helping us pull those funds together. But if you look at our region, the Great Lakes region and the Midwest as a whole, the availability of investment capital is at an all-time low. In fact, in the Great Lakes region, it's at a 6-year low in terms of the number of venture deals actually closed. And the number of venture funds that are actually being created to close that gap is the smallest that it's ever been. So while that's concerning, I actually see that as a huge opportunity for Columbus. If we can continue this momentum and continue the support for startups that we've seen over the last few years, and then you think about the backyard effect of all these assets in adding them together, the world starts to know about the opportunities, and it's going to attract the talent and the capital that we need to just continue to grow and continue building this world-class city. So it's an exciting time to be here. With all of these resources, it's actually the best time to be an entrepreneur, I think, in the history of Columbus. So today we have 3 terrific entrepreneurs. They each represent a different stage of development. So we have a raw concept stage company. We have a company that is beginning into the seed stage, and then we have a growth stage company that's in the marketplace and growing their sales. So be thinking about questions that you would like to ask them, and we'll have a fun time learning about their companies. So I'm going to go in reverse order of the stage of development. We're going to start with Steve White with Clarivoy, but the first task that I'll pose to the panelist is to give us their 30-second pitch. So what is their company? What are they trying to solve? And then what was the spark, the idea that caused them to create this company? So with that, Steve White.
Thanks, Tom, and thank you everyone for having me here today. It's great to be here. So the quick byline for what Clarivoy does is we are an enterprise software company designed for marketers. The more detailed explanation is that we help link multi-channel identities to help marketers understand exactly which parts of their marketing is working and which parts are not. And so a real-life example of that in action is our work that we do with auto dealers. And we are able to show an auto dealer precisely the offline sale and all the different marketing activities that led up to that sale. And so the idea to start this company was really came about when I was approached by a traditional media agency, and they asked me, they said, hey, we have this client, they're spending tens of millions of dollars on TV, and we have no visibility into how well the TV campaign is performing. And they said, we really like the work that you're doing with digital marketing and analytics. Can you help us solve this problem? Well, of course I said yes. And, but I didn't have any infrastructure or anything in place. But So we moved forward, and we were able to build the concept in a little under 3 months, and that client continued to renew over the next 3 years. But the powerful moment when I said we've got something here was our ability to show the advertiser that 38% of their sales could be attributed to that TV campaign. A little long-winded, sorry.
No, that was great. Your pitch was 15 seconds. That was pretty good. Shaun?
Yeah, great. So Ardina is the AAA for healthcare. We've built an online marketplace for out-of-pocket healthcare. The problem we saw was a lot of us are showing more of the cost for healthcare, whether rising premiums, rising deductibles, or just uninsured individuals. But we wanted to make sure that everyone has access to affordable healthcare. So for 10 or 20 a month, your family can have unlimited primary care through telemedicine and discounts on dental, prescription, vision, chiropractor, and lab. And so the spark, Tom, that led to this idea started way back when I was a youngin'. I was a pharmacist at 21, and my first day as a pharmacist, I had a mom that couldn't afford an antibiotic. And so what I did, being 21 and thinking I can help people, paid for the antibiotic. And then I realized I just cannot afford to continue paying for everyone's medication. So instead, I decided to create a career, got my business degree, and now doing a startup trying to help us access affordable health care.
That's great. So our next, a brief introduction of Disha. Disha is the youngest entrepreneur on the panel. Disha graduated high school last May. And we're really pleased to work with her. So Disha, the floor is yours.
So TacBoard currently is a widget that small business owners can install into their sites. And basically it has a little submit box that says name your price and a little tack it button next to it. So the people who visit these business owners' sites, they can name prices that they're willing to pay for their products and then save those products and be alerted when that product drops to their desired price point. So this does two things for the business owners. It gives a lot of useful analytics to just about who their online customer is, and additionally it collects a lot of interesting pricing data, which is hard to collect otherwise. So I came up with this idea back in junior year, I think.
A long time ago.
2 years ago, about. My friends, I remember seeing one of my friends scrolling through Forever 21 or something, some site during government class, and she was copy and pasting these links to items that she liked. And when I asked her after classes had ended, I asked her what she was doing. She told me she was bookmarking these items, and she would come back to them and check up on them to see if they had dropped to something that was within her budget. I quickly realized that millennials have low purchasing power but high stylistic taste, so that market is incredibly difficult for high-end retailers to capture. So yeah.
That's terrific. Okay, so panelists, remember the theme, sort of the best of Columbus and the backyard effect. So Steve, again, starting with you, how's the backyard effect helped you, and what have you experienced as you've launched the company here in Columbus?
Yeah, it's been huge. It enabled us to land our biggest client to date. So the way it worked was Rev1 made an introduction to Germain Motor Company, and so Germain immediately liked what we were doing. We signed them up for a pilot. The pilot continued for 3 months, and then they came on board with an annual license. So that was a great first win in the automotive space in Columbus. But what that led to was Hendrick Automotive. Shaun Niffen is actually friends with the director of marketing at Hendrick Automotive. Hendrick Automotive is an $8 billion automotive group and number 7 in the U.S. And so as a result of the work that we did for Germain, the person at Hendrick asked Shaun, can you we're really interested in what you're doing to measure the impact of your marketing. And so one thing led to another, and within 45 days, we closed the deal with Hendrick.
Great.
So I'm going to tell you a story about why I came to Columbus about 4 years ago. So I had an opportunity to move to the coast, whether west or the east coast, but I actually chose Columbus, one, because I could afford to live here. That's very, very important. But number two was I was working at a family-owned retailer in Bentonville, Arkansas. Don't want to name them. But I saw a lot of consumer research, and anytime I saw a focus group, Columbus was always the focus group. It's interesting if you look at the demographics and the psychographics, the household income, the gender, the age, everything. Columbus is really the focus group for everything that I saw at that not-to-be-named retailer. So I just thought it was just a great place to build a company and hopefully take the learnings from this city to scale it. And the backyard effect is just, everyone says 7 degrees of separation, and Columbus is a very big, small city. It's really 1, sometimes a half degree of separation to get to know people here.
That's great. Disha?
So TacBoard actually started off a bit different. It was more of a business-to-consumer product at first, and I would have never been able to come up with a business to consumer product without the help of the connections that Rev1 has facilitated. In particular, there's a company that Rev1 connected me with. They're in the very same space of the widget. So they were very helpful in kind of developing what kind of analytics I'd be able to capture from this widget, and other really useful monetization ideas as well.
So being an entrepreneur is incredible hard work. I mean, there's long hours. There's really no stop. So beginning again with Steve, what's been your greatest challenge to date?
Well, definitely going through that valley of death. Just as we, we're starting to get some traction, we slowly started to run out of money. So that was a huge challenge and kind of a low point. But I would say the biggest challenge is finding talent. And finding talent that is willing to come work for a startup, because anymore the glamour of working for a startup is really not what it used to be. People are not willing to take pay cuts, so you have to really be willing to pay the market rate, and so that was a huge eye opener for me.
Shaun?
Yeah, really, Columbus is a great city. I was able to meet with large companies, big, small companies, pretty much anyone in town, but the toughest thing that we faced was our first customers. Columbus is a great city, but a lot of the feedback we received was, great, come back to me when you're a bigger company. And it's a line I used when I was in a big company as well, so I'm very familiar with it, but I just would really like to challenge the group. $1 to a startup is great. A pilot customer to a startup is great. Your account manager will be the CEO, and they'll make a change within a day, maybe. So just to challenge you folks to think about that, but that was the biggest challenge we faced, getting the first customers onto our platform.
The biggest challenge for me was probably, I had a co-founder split early this year, which was rough. But I mean, after that, it's been difficult, and like Steve said, it's been difficult to find talent to help in this endeavor.
Think of the experience you're going to have when you're as old as Shaun. It's great. It's great. Okay, so what's been the high point on your journey, Steve?
Oh, yeah. So we recently launched some newer products in our platform. And we were excited about it, but sometimes you wonder, okay, is the market going to accept it? And so we've pitched this product 5 times to 5 different clients, and every single one of them has signed up.
That's great.
That's great.
That's great.
That's great. So the high point for Ardina, we had a belief that we really wanted to help people access healthcare, and it's one thing to think you have 1,000 different scenarios that can play off, but the one that we're finding to resonate the most is we're kind of a bridge between being uninsured and having insurance. So it's that 47 million that are probably going without care, and those are the people we're serving. So it's pleasantly surprised to see the audience that we wanted to reach, we are reaching them.
Good, good.
The high point for TacBoard was probably when we got our first customer. It was pretty incredible. It was thrilling to hear how this small business owner was describing how this widget would really help her in figuring out her pricing for her clothes that she was selling. So yeah.
Good.
One quick follow-up.
Sure.
I think another high point for me is seeing the team come together from Clarivoy. It's just been really neat.
Did you bring your team here today? Is that why
I've
you
got
said that?
Matt.
Yeah.
Two folks are here, Matt Reed, who's our president, and then Rick Houghton.
Yeah, good thing to bring that up. So, Steve, you talked about the challenge of talent, and
Yeah.
I think attracting talent to a startup is a big challenge. So, can you expand on that and maybe any other ideas you have and how to close that gap?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to really sell when you're interviewing prospective people to come on board. You've got to really sell the vision and get them excited about what you're doing. Yeah, and I think the association of being able to have innovative software coming out of Columbus, Ohio. I think the more that we can do that, I think the more of a magnet Columbus can become. That talent is willing to come here, to Ohio. Everyone's like, now where is Ohio?
Yeah.
So.
Shaun, you're taking a creative approach towards launching your product. So why don't you share with the audience some of your marketing efforts and the education events that you're holding?
Yeah, so we started like any tech startup, trying to do the Google ads and then the Facebook, and what we realized after about a month is nothing was working. Healthcare is the biggest industry in the US, and there are a lot of big competitors that would buy up all the AdWords. And also when you're not a brand that people recognize, Facebook just doesn't work for you. So we've done a lot more with PR events and work with great firms like Gavin Communications, Content Via, Superior PR, to really help kind of make us feel big, even though as a startup. So what we've tried to do a lot is be in the events. We did a Halloween in Tuttle Mall. We've done events with the chambers. We've held open enrollment events to help people sign up for healthcare.gov. So a lot of things that are on a startup budget we can afford because it's our legwork and our sweat equity, but we really wanted to take that approach to get the name out because we do feel that brand awareness is what lead people to look into our site rather than Google and Facebook.
Good. Now, a little more about Disha. Disha's been accepted to engineering school, and she's deferred admission for a period of time to work on this startup. So she's promised she is going to, I'm looking at the university continues, she is going to pursue her degree. But Disha, can you share with us what made you make that decision?
Engineering?
No, to defer your...
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I always knew back in maybe freshman year, I knew that I wanted to take a gap year. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I thought maybe traveling or something else. But I really kind of fell into this. I never really expected TacBoard to become this or become my gap year, but it's been an incredible opportunity, and it's been a really great learning experience. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so it's my opportunity to cue the audience. In a moment, we're going to move to your questions. So just one more for each of you, but the floor is yours. So what would you like to share with this audience about your experience, about Columbus, about creating a startup here? The floor is yours. So Steve, we'll hand it to you first.
Sure. I guess I would just like to challenge, everyone in this room to, to Shaun's point, to really have open arms towards startups, and even this notion of, actually creating a startup line item in your actual budget, that you're setting aside money to actually work with startups.
Yeah, no, just to add on that too, a lot of the startups here are focused on building sustainable businesses. The diversity of people within Rev1 and all the startup founders that I meet, I haven't found anyone that's competing with another startup in town, and I think it just speaks volumes to the diversity of talent and ideas within this city. So take a chance on the startup.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, this community has been incredible in helping me as a young entrepreneur in developing TacBoard. I can only add on to what Shaun and Steve said in that, give us a chance.
Good,
Yeah.
Good. All right, nice job. Okay, so I have a statement that I need to read. So it is CMC's tradition to take audience questions, so we're ready for that section. Please state your name, ask your question, and we thank you in advance for not making long editorial comments. So let's proceed with the first question, sir.
Hi, I'm Peter McCrae. I have my own architectural business. And 5 years ago, I set up a virtual architectural practice and felt like I was out there all by myself, and it's really gone great. So I like seeing this whole world of entrepreneurship and startup businesses. We all love Shark Tank, and so because we have the experts in the world as opposed to the entertainment value that we see in a program like Shark Tank, I'd like you guys to tell me what's real about Shark Tank, what's not real. Do they really steal businesses for a living? You know, it seems like they get 50% for very little cash. And would you guys ever consider something like Shark Tank, or have you already found what you're looking for?
Steve? I can take that. Well, I think the biggest thing is that you're not giving away percentages of your company like in 30 seconds. Like you see people doing, you're not creating your valuation on the fly of what your company is worth. So, you know, it makes for great entertaining TV. I think it's a fun show, interesting show to watch. So,
Shaun? Disha?
Well, just from what I watch with Shark Tank, a lot of it is consumer products, and there's a whole world of business to business and enterprise and even business to consumer. So I think it's great for entertainment, but I think it's very different than what we experience in real life.
Yeah, it's not reality. Next.
Hi, I'm Carol McGuire, and my entire table is in awe of all of you. I mean, we're just like, really? High school? If you had it within your power to change one thing about the business environment in our community, what would that be?
Excellent question. Disha,
I think one thing would be maybe increasing the diversity in the business environment. I mean, especially in Columbus, in Silicon Valley, it's more towards college students who are pursuing startups. But in Columbus, it's an older demographic, so making it a little bit more accessible for college-age students to pursue startups would be really incredible.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Shaun, let's each address that one.
Yeah. That's funny, Disha. We're all old. You know, the ecosystem is actually really thriving here, and there's a great number of law firms, IT shops, accounting, PR, marketing services. I think more than anything, I think we need examples. We have a lot of really great startups. Don't have to be a startup. They're small businesses. How do we learn and create some level of mentorship that can help someone, the next corporate person that really wants to do a startup? Like, how do you help someone through mentorship? That would be what I would love to see.
I'm going to just beat the same drum. I think just more willingness to take meetings with startups, and because I mean the biggest value that a company can bring is not the money. It's the learning that occurs throughout the process of developing your product. So
I might add on to that comment. The corporations get a lot out of this too. We're seeing great examples. Cardinal Health, for example, they get involved in the customer acquisition program with Rev1 and many of these startups. And in fact, Shaun has accessed Cardinal. But it's also a career development within the corporation, because it gets some of their professionals involved with a startup at a level that's non-threatening to the corporate base, but it also creates an interesting work environment. Next question.
Hello, my name is Neil Collins. I'm with Innovate New Albany, the business incubator in New Albany. Nice to see all of you up there, and thank you for being here today. My question is, we have very many business pitch events here in town, very popular, things like Wake Up Startup and Sundown Rundown as examples. And at the conclusion, typically the entrepreneur is asked, what's your ask for the people in the audience? It strikes me that there isn't a better audience to make an ask for than the one that we have right here. So I'd ask all of you, do you each have an ask for this talented and well-connected group we have here? It's a great opportunity. Let's go for it.
I'm going to sound like a broken record. Take a meeting with us.
Well, if you're a business owner or business owners that don't offer healthcare benefits, I'd love to be able to talk to you about offering Ardina, because I think it's a great affordable option for your staff.
If you have any connections in the retail space for small business owners in particular, that'd be incredible.
Yeah. Advisors, mentors, investors, and customers. Those are the key things that we all need. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Dworin. I'm here with SSTI. Shaun, one of the points that you brought up as far as why you chose Columbus as opposed to the coast, I thought was really interesting, and it really was all about kind of the heterogeneity of the population here, how there was kind of something for everyone, how there were all of those, even though it's a big, small city, it has all of those opportunities. So I guess my question for the panelists, and then Tom, maybe if you wanted to speak on behalf of maybe the broader Rev1 Ventures portfolio, are you guys seeing that as like a big advantage in the way in which you're operating your business as far as kind of using Columbus as the focus group market and then scaling from there? Has that kind of been involved in any of your work or maybe in some of the other Rev1 Ventures works as well?
You know, I don't know about the kind of the test market nature of Columbus. I think that there are enough big companies to kind of battle test our respective products that it's not going to be a problem to find the right companies.
And so there's a term in startup land, product market fit, trying to find your product and finding the market where it fits. I'll tell you, I haven't been on a plane all year. And so trying to find product market fit, I've been able to have time at home with my sons, and that's been great.
So yeah, it's been a great place to test the validity of TacBoard for sure.
So the broader perspective is we have such a large corporate base and very successful corporate base that many different types of companies can target them as potential customers. What we see in general is data analytics and decision support software tools really lead the day right now in terms of being able to access customers, and you see examples of that on this panel. We also have great examples of more traditional IP-related companies that need to access our customer base. The one we like to use is a spin-out example of Ohio State University, a company called Simple Fill that's created a new refueling system for compressed natural gas vehicles. We have some great corporate companies in town that have large fleet vehicles, and they're going to be the test bed for that kind of product. So we have some really good examples, and it's something that we really target, because the quicker we can get a company to revenue and have a customer, and the least expensive, the stronger the roots are that they put down in our community and the more successful they're going to be. It's a great question. Next question.
Yes, hi, Andy Campbell. Thanks for being here. I've got probably a two-part question. You talk a lot about talent or talent acquisition. I'm wondering if is that code for computer programmers, but maybe the breadth of talent that your organizations might offer, and then maybe looking several years ahead, kind of blue sky, what's possible. How many jobs do you think your entities might be able to generate for the community and to benefit?
Steve?
Can you repeat that first part of my question?
Well, the first part, you're talking about talent, and I'm wondering if that's purely computer programmers, IT people, or across the creative class, law. I mean, I've always heard for entrepreneurs you want to surround yourself with expertise. So the talent pool, and then how big the companies could be in the future.
Okay. Yeah, I think it definitely leans towards more technical developer type of talent. But we're looking to make a sales hire, and that's going to prove to be challenging just because of the nature of what we do in terms of our software. It's a complex sale, and so it's a unique person to be able to find.
And just share more affordable talent. I mean, that's kind of the nuance. I think in the Bay Area, there's a lot of, go from startup to startup, and it's really the stock that you bank on. But in this, to Steve's point earlier, you've got to be able to pay for talent. And from a blue sky, I think you pointed out, Andy, we really want to help people get healthcare because it's a slippery slope if you avoid getting healthcare when you need it. So I'm just going to keep pursuing that mission because it transcends across Columbus as well.
For me particularly, computer programming would be an incredible asset to have. I mean, I have a little bit of experience, but not enough. And expertise in areas of sales, and those are the two things that really matter.
Yeah, Andy, a couple of comments. Culture ends up being a bit of a challenge, although it's getting better all the time. But we don't have the Silicon Valley culture of jumping into a company with equity and no pay. And so at a company at, say, Shaun's stage, where haven't really closed an initial round of capital yet, capital is really scarce. So it becomes a challenge. How do you close some of the talent gaps? What we see in general across the portfolio is C-level experience is needed. And so CEOs, just CXO. And recognizing that startups are, and early stage companies are a career choice, and getting individuals to take that leap. And then we see a lack of the number of software engineering talent that we need at all experience levels in town.
I'd say one more thing is, as a startup, you can't afford to make a bad hire. And so you have to, it's not just a developer, it's someone that's been developing for, like Rick has been developing for 20 plus years. And just his wealth of knowledge so that we don't make mistakes is critical.
So I think the follow-up question was jobs outlook for your companies?
Oh, right,
yeah.
Right. Matt, Mr. Numbers Guy, what are we at, 25 by the end of this year?
Yeah, so a little history though. Can you share maybe where you've come from?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So I originally started Clarivoy in 2009. So I was a one-man band, worked out of my attic. We called it Suite 300. So I literally worked out of there for 3.5 years. In fact, one of my first clients is actually in the audience today, Jamie McGann of McGann Media. But so I hired my first employee, Matt Reed, joined in 2013, and that was extremely scary. And then we just kind of ramped up from there. So we're currently, I think, at 10 employees. Right, 11 employees right now.
Shaun?
It's to your point, Tom. It's going to be when we get to capital, we'll probably hire, but we've just done a lot of bartering and a lot of helping people out, and there's a great system of startup founders that help each other out.
Now, Disha, it's a double-edged sword. We want you to go to school, but
Did you tell everyone where she's deferring to?
No, I'm going to leave that off the
off
the agenda.
It depends when I get to capital.
Right.
It really, yeah.
So here's what you see in the jobs game with the startups is initially it's usually a 1 to 2 person founding team, and a lot of times they'll go out and raise an initial round of capital that looks like $100,000 to $200,000, and that may grow the team to 3 to 4 people. It's really the seed round when they start raising $1 million to $2 million where they start adding jobs. And for every $1 million raise, you can sort of average 10 jobs directly to that company. And then there's obviously an indirect component to that goes out into the community. The tipping point is typically 5 years. It takes about 5 years to get to the point where you're really ramping up jobs. That's somewhat industry specific. So that's in particular, that was a software IT stat. Life science companies, advanced material companies take a little longer to get to that tipping point, but that's what you can expect. So at this point, I believe we hand it over to Carol. So thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's forum. I hope you all can stay and people will have one-on-one conversations with you. Fascinating. I, too, am just very, very impressed as a longtime Columbus resident. Let's thank our sponsors, Dispatch Media Group, WBNS 10 TV, and you know that you can view and share today's forum and all of our forums on CTV Columbus Television, on WOSU and PBS affiliates statewide through the Ohio channel, and anytime on CMC's website via YouTube. Let's thank our speakers, Steve White, Shaun Young, Disha Shidam, and Tom Walker. And thanks to all of you for being here today. We look forward to seeing you at CMC again. Thank you all.
Thank you.